Imagine a force of nature so powerful it can build mountains and reshape continents. A river of liquid fire, hotter than molten steel, consuming everything in its path. Now imagine standing in its way with nothing but water. It sounds like a fantasy, a desperate gamble from a myth. But in 1973, on a small Icelandic island, this exact battle between the ocean and the volcano was fought, and the outcome would determine the future of an entire community. This is not a legend. This is the true story of how people confronted an erupting volcano with the most audacious cooling operation ever conceived, a testament to human ingenuity in the face of raw planetary power. Our story begins in Iceland, a land whose very name evokes images of windswept glaciers and Arctic cold. But this is a land of profound contradiction. Beneath the thick layers of ice and the howling winds lies a world of fire. Iceland is a hotspot, sitting astride the mid-Atlantic ridge where the North American and Eurasian tectonic plates are slowly tearing apart. This geologic reality makes Iceland one of the most volcanically active places on Earth. On a landmass roughly the size of Kentucky, the country is home to no fewer than 130 volcanoes, and over 30 of these are considered active. If Americans live with the threat of tornadoes and the Japanese with the constant possibility of earthquakes, then for Icelanders, the ever-present reality is the giant volcanoes slumbering and sometimes awakening in their backyard. Just a few miles off Iceland's southern coast lies the Vestmannaeyjar archipelago, a collection of small islands. The largest of these, and the only one with a significant population, is Heimaey. For centuries, Heimaey has been a thriving fishing community, its harbor providing shelter and prosperity. The island is small, only about 5 square miles, and the town is nestled comfortably within it. Overlooking this peaceful settlement was a volcano named Eldfell, which simply means fire mountain in Icelandic. For nearly 6,000 years, Eldfell was silent, its slopes becoming a familiar, almost friendly part of the landscape. But in the world of volcanoes, dormant is not a synonym for dead. It is merely a pause. The first warnings came on January 21, 1973. Small tremors began to shake the island. Dishes rattled in cupboards, and windows vibrated in their frames. For the residents of Heimaey, this was not entirely unusual. Iceland is a seismically active country, and small earthquakes are a frequent occurrence. Life went on, with little more than a passing comment on the shaking ground. The tremors continued, on and off, for the next 2 days. Then, at 1:55 in the morning on January 23rd, the island's reality was shattered. A deafening explosion ripped through the quiet of the night. The ground, which had been trembling, now tore itself open. A fissure over a mile long cracked the earth just a few hundred yards from the eastern edge of the town, close enough that the flames could be seen from bedroom windows. The eruption was immediate and violent. A line of 40 massive lava fountains shot into the air, some reaching heights of over 500 feet, lighting the night sky with a terrifying orange glow. The noise was described as a continuous roaring thunder. Within just 2 days, a brand new cinder cone had built itself over 330 feet tall from the material being violently ejected from the earth. But the most immediate threat was not the ash or the explosive fury, it was the lava. It began to flow, fast and relentless, at a staggering rate of 3,500 cubic feet per second. To put that in perspective, that is enough molten rock to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool in under 30 minutes. It was a terrifying, slow-motion flood of incandescent destruction. Yet, in the midst of this catastrophe, fate granted the people of Heimaey 2 crucial miracles. The first was the wind. On that night, and for many that followed, the wind blew persistently from the west. This was critical because it pushed the vast, toxic clouds of volcanic gas and ash away from the town, out over the open ocean. Had the wind been blowing in the opposite direction, the entire population could have been asphyxiated. The second miracle was in the harbor. A recent storm had forced the island's entire fishing fleet to remain in port. These vessels, which were the island's livelihood, now became its lifeboats. The evacuation was a model of efficiency and calm under pressure. Guided by the fire chief's truck-mounted loudspeaker, the 5,300 residents gathered at the harbor and were ferried to the mainland. This entire exodus was completed in less than 6 hours. In the end, only one person lost their life, a man who had been overcome by gas in his basement while searching for supplies. The people were safe, but the island was now left to face the volcano's fury alone. About 250 volunteers chose to stay behind. They were not professional emergency responders, they were fishermen, factory workers, farmers, and craftsmen. Their first tasks were defensive. They worked tirelessly, shoveling the heavy abrasive volcanic ash off the roofs of buildings and homes to prevent them from collapsing under the weight. They boarded up windows and moved precious belongings out of the path of the advancing lava. But it soon became clear to both the volunteers and the authorities that these efforts, while heroic, were treating a symptom, not the disease. The real existential threat was the lava flow itself. It was steadily, inexorably, moving toward the harbor. The harbor of Jaime was the island's heart. It was a deep, naturally sheltered bay that was home to hundreds of fishing boats. This small island's fleet was responsible for catching and processing a staggering 3% of Iceland's entire gross domestic product. The harbor was not just a place, it was the reason the community existed. If the lava flow reached the harbor's entrance and sealed it off, or even significantly narrowed it, the island's economy would be wiped out overnight. The fishing boats would have nowhere to dock, the processing plants would have nothing to process, and the 5,000 evacuees would have no jobs, no homes, and no future to return to. The community of Jaime would effectively cease to exist. They were faced with a simple, stark choice: do nothing and lose everything, or try something that bordered on the impossible. It was at this moment that Icelandic scientists and civil officials proposed a plan that was both simple in concept and monumental in its audacity. They would cool the lava with seawater. The idea was not entirely new. There had been small-scale, experimental attempts to use water on lava flows in Hawaii and at Mount Etna in Italy. The results had been mixed, often failing to do more than slightly alter the lava's path. But what Iceland was proposing was of a different magnitude altogether. This would not be an experiment, it would be a full-scale war, pitting the ocean itself against the fire of the earth. The plan involved creating a vast network of high-powered pumps and a labyrinth of pipes that would draw seawater directly from the harbor and blast it, under immense pressure, onto the leading edges and flanks of the lava flow. The numbers involved were staggering. The initial plan called for spraying nearly 6.2 million tons of seawater continuously over the course of the operation. The scientific principle at work is fundamental physics, but its application on this scale was unprecedented. When massive streams of water hit the surface of the flowing lava, which has a temperature of over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, the water doesn't just sit there, it instantly flash boils, turning into superheated steam in a fraction of a second. This process of vaporization is incredibly energy-intensive. It requires a tremendous amount of heat, and that heat is drawn directly from the molten rock. As the lava loses this heat, its surface rapidly cools and solidifies, forming a hard, rocky crust. This crust acts as an insulating barrier, but more importantly, as a containing wall. As the outer layer solidifies, the molten lava continues to flow inside, but it becomes compressed. This compression causes the entire flow to thicken, to bulge upwards, and critically, to slow down. Volcanologists call these formations internal lava dams. Barriers created not by man, but by man's manipulation of nature's own physics. Barriers that form right inside the heart of the lava stream. Using seawater, however, introduced a unique and visible side effect. When the water evaporated into steam, it left all of its dissolved minerals behind. Primarily, this was salt. Enormous quantities of salt. As the operation continued, huge, brilliant white patches began to appear on the surface of the black lava, spreading across the landscape like a strange chemical snow. Scientists later estimated that the cooling operation left behind approximately 220,000 tons of salt on the lava field. The process also created its own weather. The sheer volume of steam generated rose in giant billowing columns hundreds of feet high, creating a perpetual scalding fog over the work areas. Workers labored in a surreal twilight world, blinded by the steam, their clothes soaked not with water, but with a hot, briny condensation. The conditions for the crews were nothing short of infernal. Temperatures near the lava fronts could reach 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit, the heat of a steel mill furnace. Yet men had to get close, often dangerously close, to maneuver heavy pipes, secure hose connections, and monitor the lava's progress. The initial efforts were carried out by the volunteers on the ground, using hoses fed by temporary pumps. Amazingly, the effect was immediate and visible. Where the water hit, the lava would hiss and crack, its glowing surface turning a dull black almost instantly. The flow at the edges would slow, but the sheer mass of the lava was overwhelming. The progress was like trying to stop a glacier with a hairdryer. They were making a difference, but not enough of one. Recognizing the need for more firepower, the authorities brought in a dredger ship, the Sandy. The Sandy was able to pump massive waterfalls of seawater directly from the ocean, onto the parts of the lava flow that were threatening the harbor. This offshore assault proved crucial, and the Sandy is credited with directly saving a critical section of the harbor entrance. On land, bulldozers worked around the clock to build large earthen barriers, hoping to divert the sluggish river of rock, but the lava was a relentless adversary. It would often simply overtop or flow around these obstacles. By the end of March, the situation was becoming desperate. Nearly 1/5 of the town was buried under lava and ash. The small island was slowly, visibly disappearing under a blanket of black rock. Then, a crucial breakthrough arrived from across the Atlantic. The United States government, hearing of Iceland's desperate battle, shipped 32 massive industrial-grade pumps to the island. These were not ordinary pumps. Each one was a mechanical behemoth, capable of moving 264 gallons of seawater every single second. To put that power into perspective, working together, these pumps could empty an Olympic-sized swimming pool in a matter of minutes. When this new arsenal was deployed, the battle truly shifted. The increased volume of water was a game-changer. The lava's advance into the town began to slow perceptibly, and then for the first time, it stopped completely. But the fight was not over. With the main front stabilized, the engineers devised an even more daring strategy. Instead of just cooling the edges, they would take the fight directly into the lava field. The plan was to lay lines of water pipes directly across the surface of the still hot lava, to cool it from the top and create internal dams right at the source. This sounded like suicide, but they discovered that the thick layer of volcanic ash that had fallen over the earlier lava flows acted as a remarkable thermal insulator, much like the crust on a crème brûlée. This ash shield allowed bulldozers and other heavy vehicles to drive directly onto the lava field, a scene that looked like it was pulled from a science fiction film. In steep, unstable areas where vehicles could not go, the work had to be done by hand. Teams of workers, shrouded in blinding steam, dragged sections of heavy-duty, heat-resistant plastic pipe across the rugged terrain, connecting them to the network of pumps in the harbor. These pipes, with water constantly flowing through them to prevent melting, were stretched deep into the heart of the cooling lava field, some reaching 650 feet in. It was grueling, dangerous work. The lava was still shifting, and pipes would frequently crack, break, or melt. Each time one failed, a crew would have to rush in to replace it, ensuring that the precious flow of water was never interrupted for long. After 15 straight days of this relentless around-the-clock pumping, a miracle occurred. A massive internal cool wall had formed, an artificial geological feature that finally, definitively blocked the main lava flow. The river of fire had been stopped. The volcano's 5-month-long assault was over. The operation was officially declared over on July 10, 1973. The giant water cannons fell silent. There was nothing left to spray. In the aftermath, the numbers were tallied, and they were almost beyond comprehension. The total amount of seawater pumped onto the lava was a staggering 1.9 billion gallons. To put that in a more relatable context, that is enough water to fill more than 10,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. All of it was used to slow and stop a single river of fire. The total cost of this campaign was estimated at the time to be around $1.5 million, which is roughly equivalent to $8 million today. While this was a significant financial burden for a small nation, it was by any measure a bargain. If they had done nothing, the lava would have likely flowed for another month, completely destroying the harbor and wiping out that 3% of Iceland's GDP. The investment saved the island's future. The success at Heimaey, where other attempts had failed, can be attributed to a unique convergence of several critical factors. First was proximity. The eruption occurred right next to the town, and, just as importantly, right next to the sea. This allowed for a rapid deployment of personnel and equipment, and made the limitless supply of cooling water logistically feasible. Second was the lava's speed. While terrifyingly destructive, Eldfell's lava flowed relatively slowly compared to the fast-moving flows seen in Hawaii. This deadly slowness granted the responders precious time to plan, experiment, and adapt their tactics. Third was the ready supply of seawater. The ocean was Iceland's natural weapon, an infinite reservoir that required no transportation from distant sources. Finally, there was the element of logistics and technology. Iceland's developed infrastructure and the timely arrival of the high-capacity American pumps provided the necessary mechanical muscle to win the battle of attrition. The legacy of the Heimaey eruption is not one of utter destruction, but of profound resilience. The event quickly became a global media sensation. Photographs and film reels of the epic battle, the giant pumps spraying arcs of water onto the glowing lava, the billowing steam clouds, the bulldozers on the black river of rock appeared in magazines and on television screens around the world, including in iconic publications like National Geographic. And instead of becoming a permanent ghost town, Himeoe experienced an unexpected boom. People flocked to the island as tourists, drawn by the dramatic story and the awe-inspiring new landscape. The cooled lava flows, now solid black rock streaked with vast white salt deposits, became a permanent open-air museum. New streets were built, and the community not only recovered, but found a new identity, forever known as the town that fought a volcano and won. This story forces us to ask a profound question about the human spirit. When faced with an unstoppable force, a primal power that seems designed to erase you from the earth, what do? Do you yield, accepting your fate and moving on? Or do you stand and fight, using every tool, every ounce of courage and every bit of knowledge you possess to defend your home? The people of Himeoe made their choice. They looked at a river of fire and decided to pour the ocean onto it. What do you think you would have done in their shoes? Would you have stayed to fight for your home, facing down the heat and the uncertainty? Or would you have chosen to evacuate and build a new life elsewhere, preserving your safety at the cost of your history? We all face impossible choices in life, though rarely on such a dramatic scale. Share your perspective and your reasons in the comments below. I am genuinely curious to hear what you would have decided. If you found this incredible story of human determination and ingenuity against impossible odds compelling, if it made you think about the delicate balance between humanity and nature, then please show your support by liking this video. It helps more people discover these fascinating stories. And if you want to join us for more journeys into the most remarkable chapters of our world, stories of survival, innovation, and the enduring human spirit, then please subscribe to the channel. We have so many more adventures ahead, and we would love for you to be a part of them. Thanks for watching.